The air in Port Royal was thick with the scent of salt, rum, and desperation. The year was 1688, and Eleanor, her tattered dress clinging to her weary frame, clutched a small silver ring in her palm. It was the only thing of value she had left, a final, tangible memory of her husband William, lost to the unforgiving sea months ago. She was a woman alone in a town of hardened sailors and cunning merchants, a soft target in a cruel world. Her last few coins were gone, and the innkeeper had made it clear she would be on the street by nightfall. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple, Eleanor walked the cobblestone streets, her stomach a hollow ache. She passed taverns where raucous laughter spilled out, and dockyards where men loaded and unloaded goods with brusque efficiency. Her heart hammered with each passing minute. The ring was her last resort. She would offer it to anyone who would give her a roof over her head, a plate of food, and a chance to survive. Her path led her to the notorious docks, a place where sailors swaggered with cutlasses on their hips and the air hummed with danger. It was there she saw him. Captain Jack Blackheart Avery, a man whose name was whispered in fear and awe from Tortuga to Nassau. He was tall, his frame lean but powerful, and a thick scar ran from his brow to his jaw. Yet what struck Eleanor was not his menacing reputation, but the weary sadness in his eyes as he watched a young girl, no older than 10, chase a stray dog by the water's edge. The girl, with a mop of curly brown hair and bright, inquisitive eyes, was the spitting image of him. She stumbled, and Avery's face softened, a warmth in his gaze that was a stark contrast to his fearsome legend. He hurried to her, a soft word of comfort on his lips as he helped her up. Eleanor felt a knot in her throat. She saw a father, not a monster. Taking a deep breath, Eleanor approached him. She extended her hand, the silver ring glinting in the fading light. "Sir," she began, her voice trembling but steady, "I have nothing else. My husband was a sailor, lost at sea. I am alone and have no place to go. I will give you this for a night's shelter. Please." Avery's gaze flickered from the ring to her face. He saw not a woman trying to deceive him, but one at the end of her rope. He saw the same kind of loss that he himself carried. He was about to refuse, to tell her to go on her way, when the little girl, drawn by the quiet desperation in Eleanor's voice, trotted over. She looked at Eleanor with a mix of curiosity and concern. Her small hand reached out and took Eleanor's, her touch unexpectedly gentle. "Please, Papa," the girl said, her voice a soft plea. "She looks tired. Let her stay with us, please." Avery looked from his daughter, Lily, to Eleanor's pleading eyes. He saw the genuine kindness in Lily's face and the raw despair in Eleanor's. He was a pirate, a man who took what he wanted, but he was also a father. He had lost his wife years ago, and seeing the pain of a widow, amplified by Lily's silent plea, was something he couldn't ignore. The cold exterior he had built for survival began to crack. He had a home, a crew, and a ship. He could offer a night's shelter without a second thought. "What's your name?" Avery asked, his voice a low rumble. "Eleanor," she replied, her throat tight with emotion. "Keep your ring, Eleanor," Avery said, his eyes meeting hers. "Come with us." And so Eleanor followed Captain Avery and his daughter through the bustling streets, past the judgmental stares of the locals. She was a woman of good standing, now walking with a notorious pirate, drawn into a world she never imagined. It was a leap of faith, a desperate gamble for survival, and a quiet moment of kindness that would change everything. The interior of Avery's house was surprisingly warm and well kept. Lily's laughter echoed through the rooms, a stark contrast to the grim reality Eleanor had been living. Avery, though gruff, was a man of his word. He offered her a clean bed, a hot meal, and a sense of safety she hadn't felt in months. He explained that his crew was his family, and he operated by a code of loyalty, a stark difference from the cutthroat world she had come to expect. Over the next few days, a fragile bond began to form. Lily, with her innocent curiosity, became Eleanor's shadow. She was fascinated by Eleanor's gentle manners and stories of her life before her husband's death. Eleanor, in turn, found purpose in caring for the little girl, her maternal instincts, which had lain dormant in her grief, awakening. She helped Lily with her lessons, sewed her clothes and braided her hair, finding solace and a new sense of belonging. Avery watched them, a silent observer of their growing relationship. He saw the light return to Eleanor's eyes as she laughed with Lily. He saw the deep affection his daughter developed for the kind woman who had appeared out of nowhere. It was a quiet dance of healing. He had been a lonely man, focused on his crew and his work, a man who had forgotten what a soft touch and a kind word could do. The true test came when Avery had to set sail. He had a supply run to make, and the journey would take a few weeks. Eleanor offered to stay and care for Lily, a suggestion that brought a rare smile to Avery's face. He knew he could trust her. "Thank you, Eleanor," he said one morning, the salty wind whipping at their clothes as they stood on the dock. "Take care of my girl." "I will, Captain," she replied, her heart swelling with a new sense of purpose. As the sails of the Sea Serpent caught the wind, Eleanor and Lily waved from the shore. The quiet town seemed a little less menacing with the knowledge that she had found a place, a home. But their newfound peace was short-lived. A British naval captain, a man known for his relentless pursuit of pirates, arrived in Port Royal. Captain Alistair Finch was a man of high society and low morals, driven by a personal vendetta against Avery. He was a man obsessed with order and control, and the idea of a pirate captain living with a family in Port Royal was an insult to his sense of justice. Finch's arrival brought with it a cold, calculating danger. He was a man of cruel words and even crueler actions. He began to question the townsfolk, his questions thinly veiled threats. It wasn't long before he found Eleanor. He saw a vulnerable woman, an easy target to get to Avery. He cornered her in the market one afternoon, his voice a low, menacing hiss. "You're living with Avery, aren't you?" he asked, his eyes sharp and unforgiving. "A woman of your supposed class, consorting with a pirate. It's a disgrace. You'll tell me everything I want to know about him and his crew, or I will see you both ruined." Eleanor's heart pounded in her chest. She could feel the stares of the crowd, the whispers and the judgment. She was alone again, facing down a man with power and influence. But she was no longer just Eleanor, the grieving widow. She was Eleanor, a protector. She had a promise to keep. She had a daughter who was waiting for her at home. "I have nothing to tell you, Captain Finch," she said, her voice firm, her gaze meeting his without flinching. "I am a guest in their home, nothing more." Finch's lips curled into a sneer. "We will see about that," he spat before turning and walking away. The threat was clear. He would not stop. He would use every bit of his power to destroy her and, through her, Avery. Eleanor hurried back home, a new fear gripping her. She had found a family, a reason to live, but it was all at risk. The tranquil life they had created was built on a fragile foundation, and now the storm was coming. News of Finch's interrogation spread through Port Royal like wildfire. Avery's crew, loyal to their captain, heard of the threats and came to Eleanor's side. They were rough men, with hardened faces and calloused hands, but their loyalty was fierce. They stood as a silent, intimidating wall around her and Lily, a testament to the respect and affection they held for their captain and the family he had taken in. But Finch was not a man to be deterred by a show of force. He used his authority to put pressure on the townsfolk, cutting off their supply lines, making it difficult for them to get food and water. He was trying to force Avery out of hiding, using the very town he called home as a hostage. Eleanor, seeing the desperation of the people, knew she had to do something. She couldn't allow an entire town to suffer because of her. She made a decision. She would confront Finch, appeal to his humanity, his sense of honor. But as she prepared to go, Lily clung to her. "Don't go, Ma," Lily whispered, her voice filled with a fear that broke Eleanor's heart. "He's a bad man." The word "Ma" resonated deep within Eleanor's soul. It was a simple word, but it was a declaration. It was acceptance. It was a bond forged not by blood, but by love and shared vulnerability. It was the confirmation that she was no longer alone. She looked at Lily, then at Avery's crew, the men who had become her protectors. She was no longer just a woman who needed saving. She was a part of this family, and they would face this together. Just then, a cry went up from the docks. The sea serpent was back. Avery had returned, his face a mask of fury as he saw the state of the town and heard what Finch had been doing. He strode through the crowd, a force of nature, his presence a mix of authority and rage. He found Eleanor and Lily, and his gaze softened. He saw the strength in Eleanor's eyes and the fear in Lily's. He saw his family. He knew what he had to do. He would not run. He would not hide. He would stand his ground, not just as a pirate captain, but as a man defending his home and the people he loved. The final confrontation was on the docks, the waves crashing against the wooden pilings as a silent audience watched. Avery, with his crew at his back, faced Finch, who had a small company of Marines with him. The tension was a palpable thing. "Finch," Avery said, his voice low and dangerous. "You have no business here. Leave this town alone." Finch sneered, his eyes flicking to Eleanor. "I will not rest until I bring you to justice, Avery, you and the tramp you've taken in. She offered me information, but I suppose she's not as clever as she thinks." The lie hung in the air, a final, cruel jab. Eleanor, her heart pounding, stepped forward. "I have never spoken a word to this man, Captain Finch. I have a family now, and I will not betray them. Not for your lies, and not for your threats." Avery's gaze met hers, a silent, powerful moment of understanding passing between them. He had seen her strength, her loyalty, her love for Lily. He had seen the kind of person she was, and it was everything he had been looking for. Finch, realizing his tactics were failing, ordered his men to arrest Avery. But before they could act, the townspeople, sick of Finch's tyranny, stood up for their captain. They had seen Avery's kindness, his protection of their town, and they were tired of being held hostage. A group of fishermen, merchants, and dock workers formed a human shield, blocking the Marines' path. The sight of a community rising against a powerful authority was something Finch had never seen. He was defeated, not by a sword, but by the power of unity and the moral weight of his own cruelty. With a final, furious glare, he ordered his men to retreat. As the sun set, peace returned to Port Royal. The crowd dispersed, leaving Avery, Eleanor, and Lily together on the docks. Avery turned to Eleanor, his heart full. He had found a family, not in the chaos of the sea, but in the quiet strength of a woman who had given him and his daughter a home. "Eleanor," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "stay with us. Stay with me." Lily, with a wide, innocent smile, echoed his words. "Stay with us, Ma." Eleanor, her heart overflowing with a love she never thought she would feel again, looked from the pirate captain who had saved her to the little girl who had given her a reason to live. She had found her safe harbor, not in the quiet life she had once known, but in the most unlikely of places, with the most unlikely of people. "Yes," she said, her voice a soft, loving promise. "I will." And as they stood there, a family united against the world, the sea air felt a little less cold, and the future a little less uncertain. It was a new beginning for them all, a testament to the fact that love and family could be found in the most unexpected of places. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you'd like to see more content like this, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell to be the first to know when a new story sets sail.